All right, what's poppin'? It's your boy Big Rich, Queens, New York City, where we get busy. On a beautiful Tuesday afternoon in New York City, ladies and gentlemen, come on in, wipe your feet on the rug, throw some smoke in the atmosphere. I just lit up some street heat. Delicious. Let's get right into business. Of course, we got to thank Luigi Mealy for sponsoring today's video, LTC Nutrition and Performance. DM or email to join. And let's get right back to part 2 of our 3-part series. Part 2 of Carmine Galante, Godfather of Heroin Trafficking. Let's get right into business. Now, when we last left off was on February 8, 1931, after pleading guilty to attempted robbery. Galante was sentenced to 12 and a half years in state prison. He was still on parole for shooting the cop when he was identified as a suspect in the brutal murder of the Italian-born Carlo Tresca, the editor of the Italian-language newspaper Il Martello, which meant the hammer, who was gunned down in Manhattan on the corner of 15th Street and 5th Avenue on January 11, 1943. On January 13th, as the New York Times trumpeted on page 1, police arrested Galante, a 35-year-old gunman with a 19-year record of crime in prison. Galante happened to be under surveillance at the time of the Tresca murder. 2 hours before the shooting, Galante was checking in with the parole board at 80 Center Street. He showed up around 8 p.m. wearing a brown overcoat and was in such a nervous hurry to complete the formalities of reporting that Sidney Gross, who ran the parole office, noted the odd behavior and detailed 2 investigators to follow Galante for the rest of the night. The lingering question is on whose orders was Galante acting. While Vito Genovese is generally pegged as the top suspect, the more likely candidate would seem to be then Bonanno underboss Frank Garofalo. As for motive, there were long-time simmering tensions between Tresca and Garofalo Ali Generoso Pope, the publisher of Il Progresso, who was a power in the Italian community and a steadfast fascist until Mussolini's fall. Garofalo tried to silence Tresca in 1934. Tresca and Garofalo also had at least 2 public confrontations, and shortly before his murder, Tresca reportedly threatened to expose Garofalo in The Hammer, which was the newspaper. Garofalo allegedly replied by sending a message that Tresca would be face down in the street before such a story could ever be published. By the time Galante was in his 40s, Joe Bonanno had taken a strong interest in him and had taken him under his wing. Bonanno promoted him to consigliere and put him in charge of the family's narcotics operations. Galante was sent to Montreal to organize a heroin pipeline that involved couriers delivering large amounts of heroin from Montreal to contacts in New York and New Jersey for each of the 5 families. Galante's efforts benefited him and the Bonanno family, but also other crime families. Galante and Bonanno shared the heroin business with friends and allies, but as usually happens in these kind of stories, dynamics tend to change over time. A boss vanishes, another bites the dust, a new one arises, alliances evolve, people go to prison, etc., etc. By the 1960s, a deep-seated animosity was brewing between the Bonannos and the rest of the families. By August 1964, the commission had ousted Bonanno for overreaching with his plotting to kill Carlo Gambino and Tommy Lucchese, the two bosses who, in alliance with Buffalo boss Stefano Magaddino, dominated the commission after Joseph Profaci died. Prior in 1960, Bonanno had been called on the carpet for trying to take control of California. Would things have turned out differently had Carmine Galante not been sitting in a prison cell for heroin trafficking when Joe Bonanno was booted off the commission? The 1964 dynamics explain some of the animosity Galante reportedly felt towards Carlo Gambino while serving the prison stretch that ended in 1974. When Galante learned about Bonanno's expulsion by Gambino and Lucchese, his alleged response was, "I'll make Carlo Gambino shit in the middle of Times Square." I don't know. I mean, that's a bold thing to say about Carlo Gambino. I'm just going to put that out there. Galante also supposedly, despite Frank Costello, and may have ordered the dynamiting of his mausoleum to herald his return to the street in 1974, with a 1958 drug trafficking indictment that Costello and possibly Gambino had framed him and Vito Genovese, among others. In the recent top hoodlum, Frank Costello, Prime Minister of the Mafia, Anthony DiStefano, notes that when he visited Costello's tomb a few years back, he didn't see any damage from the bomb that detonated in 1974, blowing off the mausoleum doors in what police to this day think was a gesture by dope-dealing mobster Carmine Galante as a sign of disrespect. As for the string of murders and firebombings of pizzerias allegedly ordered by Galante in the 1970s, historical animosity was likely less a factor. Everything we found says that was for control of the heroin business in the United States. That was Galante's final battle, and he lost it. We're going to end right here, and the next part of this series will be about the Montreal pipeline that they created to bring dope from Montreal into the United States. All right, so first of all, again, great story by my man, Ed Scarpo from Cosa Nostra News. You know the link will be in the description box. That's how we get down. We want to thank Luigi Mealy for sponsoring today's video. Health is wealth. COVID is on the decline and the temperatures are going up. Get healthy for the summer. If you're in the Canada area, hit Luigi Mealy up. Let him help you with a game plan to get that beach body back. Big Rich is working on his beach body as we speak. You know what I'm saying? Mob Stories, Season 3. Like, comment, and share. Subscribe. Tell a friend to subscribe. Let me know what you're smoking on. Like I said, I just lit up some street heat. Queens. Let me know what city you're smoking in. Big Rich, you know how we do. Business. Salute.